So let's begin by standing up and just getting into this whole body thing. And I'm going to focus on my feet here. Activate the foot cam. Let's see, I think that that's good. All right. And this is going to be basically, from the PDF in the materials folder is the Q&A. And I wanted to include this material because, so many of us are teachers, and I think that this is a great thing to get our students involved with. And it's a 3-step pattern. 1 is forward, and I'm putting my weight on that foot. 2 is putting my weight back on the other foot. And 3 is resuming my standing position. Then the next 3 is just the opposite. Left foot forward, back, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you can't see my feet. One, 2, 3. But now we're going to replace those digits with the vocalizations. And I will do 2 bars, just as we did with Glenn. And I'd like you to repeat, maintaining the stepping pattern. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. You. Ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, ta, ki, ta, takita, takita, ta, ki, ta, takita. Ta, ki, ta, takita, ta, ki, ta, takita. Takita, ta, ki, ta, takita, ta, ki, ta, takita. Ta, ki, ta, takita, ta, ki, ta, takita. Takita, takita, ta, ki, ta. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. Takita, 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 takita. All right, well, let's just take a little break from that. So these were all the rhythms that were notated on the Q&A PDF that you have access to. And the suggestion here is to do these, to mix up the order as I did until it's pretty comfortable for you. And with your students too, you can do this at any level that they are comfortable with. And the stepping is just a completely different way of really resuming this. And I imagine that it's not easy for everyone. And it might be helpful, to use this in tandem with some of the other materials that we'll talk about today. So as simple as a metronome to using some of the other apps that we're going to talk about. And I wanted to introduce you to many of you, especially if you've worked with me, you know this app, but I just want to show you. It's an app called iReal Pro, and let's just see if I can show that to you. Here it is. This is just a little screenshot of what it looks like so you can check it out. This is something that we're going to be using this morning in a couple of different ways. It's a $20 app. I think there's a cheaper version for your phone also, or iPad. And once you have this app, then you go to their website, to this where it says forums here, and you can download for free just thousands and thousands of songs. And you can also create your own practice materials, and I'll show you a little bit how this goes. So that's iReal Pro. iReal Pro. It's kind of a play on words from what the jazz world. We have the real book, which is also called a fake book, which is a book that a working musician could take to a wedding gig and have it within one book, like 300 or 400 standard songs that they can just pull up. They got the melody, the chord changes in there, etc. Hey, there it is right there. Thank you, Ellen. Ellen's holding up the real book. You can see that. Exactly. Just happened to have it handy. Good for you. Yeah, right. 300 pages, baby. And there's more than one fake book too. There's a bunch of different ones, different collections. They put them out every few years. They've kind of been supplanted by electronic stuff at this point, but still good to have. And with iReal Pro, you've got thousands, even more, just on your phone. You can put on your music stand, and if you speak that language, you can get through a gig, even playing songs you don't know. Just the opposite of what we're talking about in terms of integrating deep play material. But in any case, So what I'd like to do is to go then, in fact, maybe we'll stick with the Q&A thing for a second. And I'm just going to go to that iReal Pro app. This is now a kind of typical, see, I'm going to show the sidebar here. This is like what a typical lead sheet looks like in there. Now this is a tune, Street Corner, a tune that I often do in concert with my trio, Trio Globo. So I chose it because it just happened to be in 3/4 time and it's relatively simple. So I can just press play on this. I've got this, you can do any kind of different time feels for this. You know, there's like 144 different options. Some world options, pop options, including the dreaded bluegrass option. I just say dreaded because it sounds incredibly tacky. So, but if that's the only way you can hear time, go for it, you know. So for this one, I've chosen, Latin, jazz Latin. And I set the tempo at 80. And just in case you're new to iReal Pro, you can also choose any key you want to do this in. I actually didn't set the key for this. It happens to be in D, and when I created it, I didn't tell the app that it was in the key of D. So, but if I had, I could change, so now if I go to D flat, it's going to say, it's an E flat, stuff like that. So you can do it in all different keys. Change the tempo, change the playing feel. The other thing about this is that you can highlight, a certain number of bars, and it will just repeat that endlessly. These guys are perfectly good players. They never need to go outside for cigarettes or take a bio break of any kind. And sometimes if you really get into it, I mean, you can just stay there and practice a really long time. But something like this is wonderful if you wanted to practice, for example, going between these two chords. You could slow this way, way down. This is what I talk about, putting it on your workbench and shining a bright light on it. You can really get into the details of how to move from one chord to the next. So for the case of doing some of these stepping exercises, you can do that too. And what I might do is I'm just going to highlight these 4 bars so it just creates a loop. And let me show you what it sounds like in this style with all the instruments. And it's just going to loop that. Ta, ki, ta, ta, ki, ta, ki, ta, 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 ki, ta, ki, ta, ta, ki. You notice with this particular time feel, that bass is playing right with the 2 against 3 feel. So when I do ta-ki, 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 it's right with those bass hits. So in this time feel, that bass is really contributing to the feel by playing this kind of 2 against 3 bass pattern. But let's say you wanted to do this with your kids, or you just wanted to use it as a metronome. You come over to this side of the screen, which is the mixer, turn off the piano, so he's on break, turn off the bass, and just see what the drums, what that sounds like. Now, even though this is, highly mechanized, I think this is a simple way of really attuning our ears to the different colors of a drum kit and to the percussion. so that you develop just a familiarity with the difference of these sounds. You know, they tend to be in like 4 different registers. It's almost like a 4-part chorale. You've got the bass drum on the bottom. You've got the cymbal hit with a stick at the top. There's a snare in there, which is somewhere in the treble clef. And you've got the toms, which are like the tenors. The toms are these larger drums that are often used to kind of do so-called drum fills, right? They fill out the time in order to do phrasing things. So let's just listen to that a little bit more, just so that you hear what I'm hearing. So I hear the cymbal hits on top. I hear the wood block. You know, and then the bass drum. And the toms. You hear them every once in a while. I haven't learned that tom part completely to be able to mime that, but you hear that? It's kind of a 4 or 5-part thing. And just like, you know, the same intelligence you get from reading Rimsky-Korsakov's book on orchestration, these things are all in different register in order to really make clear, you know, each voice, as it were, has its own distinct register that helps to just fill out the sound spectrum and make everything comprehensible. So it's a beautiful thing. So this is, you know, in this case, I made this file on iReal Pro myself. But like I say, there are thousands of songs. If I go over here to songs, you know, there's 1,462 songs that I've got on here. And, you know, a lot of them are in 3/4. And a lot of them are in 4/4. And then when we get further along, when we start doing odd meters later in this course, you can also edit these to be in 5/4 and 7/4 and stuff like that. So this is, like I say, even though it's kind of a mechanical sounding thing, it's a really, really valuable play along tool. I'm just going down here to this playlist, World Rhythms for Classical Musicians. I've just got 3 tunes that I wanted to use in today's workout. So that is just a little glimpse into iReal Pro. Let's see what else I can tell you. You know, there are other options here. This is the mixer for the different instruments. You can fancy up the chords a little bit if you want to. Practice tempo means that you can actually set this to increase the tempo with each repetition, which is, you know, if you want to do it super, super slow and just gradually raise it automatically, you can do that. And this one is, you know, very often here at the college, we'll practice things in all 12 keys. So this one, with each repetition, it'll move up to a different tonal level with the practice transposition on. Count in duration, etc., etc., etc. Lots of variables. And then there's also this editing device up here where you can edit this song and make changes to it. Or you can also just start with a completely blank slate and create your own. So again, that's the briefest tutorial on this, and you will find, if you are intrigued by this, you can go on YouTube, pardon me, And there are dozens and possibly hundreds of tutorials on how to use this more completely. But I just wanted to introduce it, let you know what we're going to be working with a little bit today, and uh, let you know what we're going to be working on. So I want to move a little bit into the so-called level two of Glenn's presentation and how I might practice these at home. That's the T-highs. And one of the suggested play-alongs for this is the play-along in 4. Is that right? Yes, for the T-highs. So this is just a beautifully grooving, pattern that Glenn has. It's got this great repeated thing. And oops, I've got to plug in my computer. Sorry about that. I moved it earlier and neglected to change the power supply. Don't want to lose you midstream here. And one of the suggestions for your own creative play is to just put on this play along and start playing along with it. And of course, take some of the rhythmic suggestions that have been provided. And right now, we're going to look at the T-high workout, and I'll put that on the screen in a second. Did you have a quick question, Elizabeth?
Yes. Can we find the Glenn's play along on iReal Pro since you
Oh
imported it?
no, sorry, no. It's in our shared drive.
Okay, so we can import them in iReal Pro by ourselves.
No, that would not be iReal Pro. That would be a different technology.
Okay,
So with that, what I do, I work with that in a couple of different ways. I'll simply play it, through my laptop as I'm doing now. It goes directly to like my iTunes thing on my Mac computer, and you may have a different technology, but you can just im download that MP3, or even just play it from the web. Actually,
yeah, yeah,
you
okay.
can just stay right in the browser and you can play it, or you can download it. I've also then downloaded it to my laptop and then recorded it onto my looper. So
Mhm.
then instead of, I made this play along for us, to be about 5 minutes long, which is, I think, plenty long. But if you wanted to get into it for a couple of hours without pressing stop and replay, you could put it in your looper
Yeah,
and
or
just, have an all night experience.
yeah, any tune can do that on the Mac as well.
Yeah,
Any more
yeah,
amazing slowdowner on PC.
yeah,
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
yeah, that's right. The MP3, you can do with it what you like. Um, so yeah, play along with it, and we're going to talk a couple of ways how we can use that particular play along to do the T highs. And so let's just pull up. I don't want to make you pull up the sheet music. I will pull that up here, and we'll look at the T highs. The T high workout is what we're going to look at right now. All right, there's the T high workout. So
We don't
these
see
are,
we don't see it, Eugene.
oh, you're not seeing it. Okay, let me just start this again. It should say T highs workout with GV play along. Good?
Yep.
Okay. So in Glenn's presentation, he was triggering these with a variety of vocal prompts. You know, ta, 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 baka taka boom, baka taka doom, taka taka doom. This is the first one he offered. Taka taka doom, taka taka doom, taka taka doom. Yeah, and he would do like ta 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 ta, taka taka doom, taka taka doom, taka taka doom. So one way to practice this is to, for example, put on the GV play along that goes along with this, and do it in a couple of different ways, and maybe I'll just demonstrate. You know, my first approach might be to just take even a single note over these first bars, and then either play the notation as it is, or just stay on that same note, but representing the rhythm of that T-high, bars 5, 6, and 7, into the phrasing. So that's what I'm going to do now, and let's just see how that goes. Here goes. A simple example of how I might begin to start working with that. Let's go on to the next one. And again, we'll leave some time for questions and comments on this stuff. Just take note. But just the simplest example of this. Again, I'll activate my Glenn Velez, my inner Glenn, my outer Glenn Velez. Get the idea for that? Let's move on. This next T-high is longer. It's almost like an 8-bar phrase. So that means we should also integrate it into a longer improvised phrase. So I'm going to improvise for 8 bars now, and then play this T-high. And then lastly, we'll just do this one, which is the same thing. It's a long T-high, So I think it's best practiced with a lot of, with an equal or greater amount of free play before it. Right, so some just quick examples of how to do that. And let's also just look at if I wanted to instead use iReal Pro for something like that. So let's go to something in 4/4. You can do this in a couple of ways. This is a beautiful bossa in homage of my dear friend David Chu down there in Rio, who, by being with you down there, David, I've met so many great musicians and got to play this gorgeous music so much. And for this, maybe my plan A would be just to loop 4 bars. And I'll take out the piano and take out the bass and just listen to the drums. So let's see what this sounds like. I've got this going at 80. I think that's a good tempo for this. So this is kind of a bossa feel. Well, I say kind of a bossa feel because it's a machine doing it, but it is a bossa feel as interpreted by a good machine. So I can do the same thing with the T-high workout. Here's number 1. Do it faster too, the same one. And it could be, if you're actually learning this tune, pull up some of the, I was going to say some of the musicians. No, that's just the opposite of what we're cultivating in this course. Pull up some of these tonal instrument players and listen to that, and we'll just start the tune and do it that way. Anyway, you get the idea of starting to just forget what I was doing and just sink into music mode there, but I think you get the idea. Yeah, so I think that is what I wanted to say about T-highs. And maybe just to finish the presentation before we open this up to more group discussion, hold on to your thoughts for now, is just to look at the Tisra. The Tisra was the so-called level 3 from Glenn's presentation last week. And it's something that I've really had fun working with this week. It was challenging, especially the exact the exact exercises that he provided. And let me just show you what I was looking at there. Or maybe I'll pull up. Let's see, let me do two things at once. I'm going to try to pull up this so you don't have to find it on your own. Let me just find this sheet music. Oh, but before this didn't work, but let me try it again. This one, I think. Are you seeing Tisra there?
No.
You're not, right? Okay, so let me do this again. That's interesting. Okay, I'm still learning how this works, but I can do this. Yeah. So here it is. And this concept is just so interesting to me. I've really enjoyed this. And so just to look at this. And the first way that I'd like to practice this is doing this actually in 4/4 time, so that I begin to make that transition with some of this. The takadimi, takadimi, a repetition of a one beat pattern that then gets represented. It's actually a 4 impulse pattern, takadimi. That's a better way of looking at it. To this, when we move to the triplets, it's still a 4 note grouping. Takadimi, takadimi number 2, takadimi number 3. So I've represented it here with these 16th notes, takadimi, 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 takadimi. And then with the same quarter note pulse, takadimi, 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 takadimi. Or if I wanted to, the way I had to learn it was takadami, takadimi, takadimi, until it became naturally, to really feel the integrity and the personality of the 4-note grouping of triplets, or the Tisra, in relationship to the quarter note pulse. Takadimi, 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 takadimi. Then you really hear that accent of the 3 against 4. The tak, 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 takadimi, 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 takadimi. And by notating that, it becomes even more obvious, because you can play triplets, but because of the design of this 4-note grouping, this beginning note tends to be accented a little bit. So let's just do this in relationship to an iReal Pro file. I'm going to leave this up for now and play. Let's see, actually I'm going to play an iReal Pro file, like I said I was going to do. Yeah, we'll just go back to Zingaro. I'm just going to take out the piano and the acoustic bass. And then we've got this. So I'm starting with the duples. Simple enough. And then we'll go to Tisra. Or to speed it up, the duples. Yeah? And then I wanted to include this Tisra over 2 bars just to demonstrate how, I don't know if I can play it this fast, but to demonstrate how the effect of it kind of changes when you change just the first note of that 4-group pattern. See if I can play it. Now, the top note seems to kind of emerge from the texture as a melody of its own. And that is a kind of 4 against 3. Here's the 4, and the 3 is 1, 2, 3. The 3 repetitions of that. Great one. Let's see. Let's try one more example. Oh, this is a great one. Actually, no, let's not do this. I want to move ahead a little bit. Oops. Okay. We'll do this. And we will do this. Thank you for stopping that. And I just wanted to show you one other thing. Again, this is in our shared drive, and that is the transcription of the Glen Velez Tisra. The transcription of the Glen Velez Tisra. Because the recording that we have has a beautiful pattern in it that I just wanted to elucidate with you for a moment. Just about to come up here. This, the transcription of the Glen Velez Tisra MP3. So this is the MP3 that you have there, and this may help to clarify it. I put the MP3 there originally just so that you would have a drum groove going in basically what is 12/8 time, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But thinking of it in 4/4, then we have to kind of label these as triplets. And what you'll hear is the pattern on this recording is really derived from that top duple pattern. And so we should just play it. I should just play this to demonstrate. See if I can find this. I think it's this one. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to stop play for a moment. So the Tisra is derived from this duple rhythm that is at the top of this transcription. Bum taka tum tum da da da. That is the seed that is being treated through the Tisra lens. Bop taka taka baku kako bop taka bum bop bum bop bum taka do do bum taka do do kaki taka taka do do kaki taka, something like that. And when he does it in Tisra, it becomes the rhythm underneath it. You notice it's the same pattern, but it is just now in Tisra. If you look at the second line where it says Tisra, bump taka tak tak da 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 da. And I hope that you recognize that that is the same thing that is from the duple rhythm above. I see some heads nodding yes, and I see some other brains exploding inwardly. Both are appropriate. Bump tickadum bum bagu gagu bump tickadum bum bagu baka. And let's just listen how that duple rhythm is transformed once you hear it in this context. Again, I will start the recording and just let you look at this music. By the way, let's focus now on the Tisra line, the second line of this, and also the low line. You know, the high is not an accurate transcription, I noticed this morning, because that high part is really a 4-bar phrase, and I need to redo this as a 4-bar phrase. The Tisra is a 2-bar phrase. You'll see that it's basically, what this is actually 3 against 8, if you want to look at it that way, because there are 3 Tisra patterns, as kind of indicated by the accents, the beginning of each Tisra pattern, that fit over 2 bars of the 4/4. And the low drum, so that's a 2-bar phrase. The low drum is the low sound, the doom, is a 1-bar phrase. It's a repeated pattern in 1 bar. But then the high part is actually a 4-bar phrase that he's doing this with a kind of snap on the drum. You'll hear that as the highest sound you're hearing. So let's just listen and look at the transcription a little bit. Bum taka tung ta taka, boom taka tung taka, boom taka tung taka. Yeah. All right, so I just wanted to show that to you and suggest that this is a great thing just to hang out with. You know, do it and hang out with it until you get it, and find ways of sing along with it, represent it on your instrument, until you begin to feel some of these orbits within the orbits. The orbits within the orbits. Just a fascinating glimpse into the mind of this musician. But, you know, these are not new things. You know, as the kind of thesis of this book I recommended last week, Steal Like an Artist, you know, there's really nothing new under the sun. These are things that have been around for 1,000 years and more. In fact, Beatty, a member of this cohort, sent me a foreword of a fascinating article by Ted Gioia, who's a wonderful writer on music, about the importance of rhythm to our health. And there are some graphics there of ancient times that go back, you know, thousands of years. And as Glenn pointed out in his interview, his Beyond Mastery interview, a lot of the depictions, the overwhelming majority of depictions of people playing drums are women. And so that's the case in the graphic accompanying this article too. So I can't remember how I got there, but that's the situation. So that is the material I wanted to present to you this morning. And I want to turn it back over to you for your commentary, your perceptions, questions, etc.
I'll say just like thank you for walking us through and showing us ways to utilize those tools. That felt super helpful to see that process and ways to engage. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, and that's what the study guide is intended to provide as well going forward. And so I hope that's clear.
I want to
David.
say
Yeah, David Chu. So I can't hear you, David. Would love to. Can you come off mute, David? You can't come off mute.
Am I off mute now? I don't know.
Oh,
Is that
there you
okay?
are. Yes, now
Oh,
I got you.
yeah, I just want to say thank you so much and wonderful to meet everyone. And first time, saudades. Missing you a lot. Like to see you again soon. And it reminds me so much of when I was teaching up in Alaska and the powwow. They took me to the Indians and we did all the stepping and, you know, I danced with them. And you mentioned the women drummers. That's exactly it. You know, it's from the primitive the drummers and rhythms interested me since Pierre Boulez when I worked with him. But now you're putting it into words and into I'm feeling it, the powwow, the stepping, and the motions, and I really got that first lesson. I'm loving to hear all this because I worked with Boulez in orchestra for years, but now it's making sense. You know, rhythm and the importance of rhythm for healing, of course, as well. Sorry, just wanted to say hello.
Beautiful, David. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, David is first cello down in the Orquestra Sinfônica of Brazil and Rio, actually, de Janeiro. Yeah, so thank you for that, David. So very happy to have you as part of this group.
thank you so much, Eugene. I just wanted to say specifically thank you for saying that listening to a drum pattern is like listening to a 4-part chorale, because suddenly I could understand it. I think I've been listening in a linear way, trying to fit them all on the same line, and then opening up the space that it was a chorale. I could totally, yeah, my classical brain, I got this now. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Eugene, for this. This has been really helpful to have the walkthrough. I was just I've been scatterbrained all week, so my practice sessions were a little bit like that. And one way that I maybe embraced that was just I just kind of played with a loop pedal and just kind of threw all the rhythms and things into a big stew. And I got very inspired that way to make some pieces and things. So, but this has also been good to just like have a more structured like walkthrough of it. So I'm feeling excited to get more into the like maybe disciplined practice approach with it. But it did feel helpful just to kind of like, as you were saying, just hang out with it and just sort of live and create a world around these different
Absolutely, Zan. Absolutely, yeah. There's just no wrong way to work on this. There really isn't. I think that all of our natural curiosity will lead us exactly where we need to be going with this. So, you know, never feel like there's any oppressive authority over the design of your practice time. I like that sentence. I got to remember that. That's a good one. Any oppressive authority over your practice time, yeah. Yeah, I'll just leave the space open for a few minutes for comments, questions, suggestions also. Yeah, Ellen?
I love Azan, that you mentioned, and nice to meet you, by the way, that you talked about discipline, you know, just in conversation of talking about improvisation and freedom. I love the juxtaposition of like finding a disciplined approach, and maybe that's like the classical musician in me. When I speak to my students over the years, I've realized that when I use the word play instead of practice, um, I try to remind, and I have to do it to myself too. And it's like, oh, it's time to practice. And like, no, I'm going to go play my cello. And I've tried over the years to be really cognizant of what I say to myself and my students, but it's more, sometimes it's more for me, you know, I want my students to go practice, but really it's like if, in terms of talking about process, is a go play your cello. See if you can go play your cello for 10 minutes and say to yourself, I'm going to go play for 10 minutes, find something that you want to do the most. Don't pick scales, don't pick an etude, you know, just play. And then see if you're inspired. You might look up at the clock and see that 30 minutes went by. And I try to do that to myself as well, because when I think of it in terms of play, it is so much more impactful for me to remind after, you know, 40 plus years of practicing, that it's not really practicing. I don't know what I'm practicing for. You know, if I'm in the moment, what am I practicing for? Yeah, there's a concert, or yeah, there's this, but like, aren't I just sitting down to play? You know, aren't I doing this because I love doing it? And so I find that the words are very powerful subconsciously for me on a different level. And so I'm just bringing that up only because I loved how you said discipline. And I was like, yes, discipline. I love it. And then I have to figure out how to um, figure out how to take that word and like turn it into a word that doesn't feel like it's sort of squashing my spirit in the same breath that I say that I want to do something. And so I'm just putting that out there. I don't know why, but I was just felt compelled to kind of talk about how I try to now tell my students, I never tell them to practice. I always tell them to go play. So
I had something slightly similar this year. I got a carbon fiber cello, and just because you just don't have to be as careful with it. I just leave it out of the case, leaning up, in the kitchen, and I find myself, just going over to it. I mean, the potatoes are going to take 10 or 12 minutes to boil. I just go pick up the cello and just see what wants to happen. And I realize that so much of my association with the cello is kind of this precious, almost fetishistic, attitude that we develop toward our fine and expensive instruments that are comparable in some cases to our home mortgage. But having a carbon fiber just kind of made me question it. I said, oh yeah, this is why I don't play it as much, because I'm so careful. I like just having it around. That's interesting, Ellen.
I think also I'll just dovetail on that conversation around words and just also like associations, because I feel like I like notice in society that there's a lot of like the word discipline can be evocative of something like punitive or like negative versus like a devoted path that you keep showing up to, that is a part of mastery in almost all traditions, right? Like whether it's like a Zen tradition or like archery, or like the like discipline to keep showing up. Or like I think of like I did this workshop with the writer Alice Walker, and she talked about like the discipline of sitting at her desk every day for 2 hours, whether or not she wrote much, and just like making yourself available. And it's been interesting over the years for my own self, like seeing that discipline as a positive force that like has created the time and space to be devoted to this craft, and like the showing up is a big part of that. And yeah, it doesn't have a negative connotation to me anymore. Like I see it as a positive thing. So it is.
And that may take some work to get there. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, along with the word practice. I mean, if we just think of it as a practice, in the same way that our meditation is a practice, or our personal hygiene is a practice, or how we like to keep our kitchens, it is simply a practice. Oh, I'm going to unmute you, David. Hold on a second. We want to hear every word. Okay. Just a moment. Oh, I have to ask you to unmute.
Okay.
There we are. Oops, one more time, David. You're back on mute. There we are.
Hi. Okay. Yeah, no, just what you were saying about meditation and practice. The pandemic was a great revelation for me, because I wasn't going to the orchestra for 2 years, and every day Bach, improvised in Bach. I played Bach every day, every suite, and one day, one suite. the week passed, because it was all day, back and back and back. And that's the discipline and the practice. And it becomes our meditation. And music is our meditation. And that's all I wanted to say. But it really revealed that to me during the time I was alone in the forest, and so it's so important that you mentioned meditation, discipline, and practice. It's something we've got to talk to our students about, and how important it is to be with our cello, whether it's a Stradivarius or a carbon fiber. Bill Pleath used to throw his Stradivarius on the sofa as if it was a carbon cello. It was so important to his life. It was part of his life. And I do the same with mine. I just pick it up when I'm waiting for the potatoes to boil. That's great. I love it. Okay. Thanks. Anyway, thanks for mentioning that. That's important for me. Yeah. Thanks.
I love this thing about the pandemic that you just said, David. It changed things for me, anyways. I don't practice much, like when I'm told to be, like I'm being told to practice, like when I was in school. You have to practice, and what you said, Ellen, the difference between practicing and playing. I was playing all the time when I was a teenager, and my teachers and my parents were saying, stop playing and practice what you have to do. And they were right, because I had stuff to do, but I wanted to transcribe stuff, learn by ear, because it was more easy for me. But I was doing my way through that. And then the pandemic happened, and I had the chance to work with Eugene for a few months, and do some work on improvisation and open new doors. And I was playing all the time, and I got in shape more than as in shape as I was in school, and I was studying. And it was just, I was attracted to my cello like I've never been before, or almost. And it was just great. And I created this space in my new apartment where I have 2 cellos, and they're out, and I can pick them up all the time. And it's just, yeah, I play all the time. I've been playing all the time since the pandemic, because it just, I allow myself to play again instead of practicing.
Right. Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone, for such a beautiful sharing of so many rich ideas and sincerity with working with ourselves in new ways. And there were many beautiful things. Always, Eugene, you're such a beautiful soul and musician. But one of the big light bulb moments for me was, I think it was a T-high, if I'm remembering which the names properly, but hearing you work through iReal and feeling that grounding of the way you use the rhythm, that specific rhythm to ground those improvisations. And I was expecting them to be cadences, but you use them as sometimes platforms to a next thing. And then hearing how you were just wanting to play, and did play in the term that we're talking about, where it's just this beautiful relationship of curiosity as you use the discipline that you have to just be a starting point for something else. I'm not sure if I'm articulating it very well, but it's a joy to see you doing that. Thank you for sharing all of it. But seeing you work, play, it's very inspiring.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much for that. And just something I was reminded from something you said, Ellen, about effortlessness. It reminds me of this book, Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner. And I just wanted to say that, that book has been really influential to just so many musicians. There's even an Effortless Mastery Institute here at the Berklee College of Music that Kenny directs. But Kenny is a personal friend and of 30 years, and he and I will be co-hosting this year's Beyond Mastery retreat, which is going to, pardon me, which is going to happen at Marlborough College in the month of May. We're just going to start promoting this week. So I'm really excited about having some extended time with Kenny. He's going to be available 24/7 during that retreat, just to hang out with us, to do some one-on-one stuff, but also just to get into his kind of mind and spirit of an absolutely profoundly jazz great, but also somebody who has a lifelong spiritual practice and has developed these perceptions that pertain to all instruments. So that's just an advance word on our Beyond Mastery retreat, May 16 through 19 in Marlborough, Vermont. So with that, I think we will sign off for this week. Yeah, and any more comments or questions, by all means, please direct them my way. I read everything. I'm really committed to the value that you receive from these sessions, and I appreciate your participation so much. So I'll see you next week. Next week with Jamie Haddad, one of the great characters in the drum world. Oh my God, he's really something. So it's going to be fun. I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great week. See you next week.
So fun to see you, David. This is a real treat. I haven't seen you in years. Oh, let's see. I want to hear you again. I can't hear you. What do I have to do?
Oh,
There we go.
unmuted.
Okay,
Oh,
got it.
thank you so much, Eugene. That was the best seeing you. It was just wonderful being together and listening
Yeah.
to all the people and everyone's comments. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be going to London next week. I'll be traveling from Colorado to London on Saturday morning. Hopefully in the airport, I'll pick you up or something. Whatever. I will definitely try and tune in because it's so revealing. I loved you playing and I loved really, I just loved seeing what you're doing. It's a wonderful course. Well done. And I
Thank
hope
you,
everyone.
David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope we'll
Take
be able to
care.
hang out in person again soon. Yeah.
I hope so too. Yeah. Take
Take
care.
care, David.
Bye.
Bye. How are you, Beatty? Do you want to have a word?
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm not a classically trained musician. I'm
know.
a folk singer and a jazz singer and now a songwriter. And I'm so inspired. And I feel like, the lines between genres are just blurred, which is so beautiful. And this is all about just doing what we love and creating and being able to spread it to others in a beautiful way.
At the very bottom of it, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So I'm so happy to hear that there is some positive takeaways for you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, let's stay in touch.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Have a great week.
Signing off for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.